Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of Talking Poop. I'm your host Jason Bromley, and we're here for a very special, ooky, spooky episode. Yes, that's right. It's my favorite time of year again, Halloween time. And in honor of Halloween, every week this month, we're going to be doing another ooky, spooky episode of Talking Poop. This week, we're doing a movie very near and dear to my heart, so much so that it's tattooed on my arm, Army of Darkcast.
Do you lose sleep at night? Grab your pillow tight. Do you struggle to find why Han and Luke had to die? Are you just a mess? Does Hollywood leave you stressed? Because their sequels are more important than fan requests. Hold on to your chair, cause Talking Poop takes you there. You might have to change into some new underwear. Talking Poop.
He is a man that I love in a way that men aren't supposed to love other men. But I'm okay with that. We're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, the erection, Brian fucking Gunn.
The erection. I always love your intros. They get me pumped up for the episode.
That should be your wrestler name, like the erection.
The erection.
How like egregious is that? Like, wouldn't you be afraid if somebody was like,
I definitely
and
wouldn't
in this corner, the erection, and you just come out and you're like, ugh, and the veins are all sticking out of your face,
oiled up.
Yeah,
I
just
definitely wouldn't want to
oiled up.
grab him.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I don't want to wrestle someone named the erection.
No, for sure not. That could be your MMA fighting name.
Well, I mean, my favorite thing to do during jiu-jitsu is like, hey, you smell so good right now. You're like, I'm glad I'm finally in your arms again. You know, something like that.
Right.
And that'll buy you half a second of shock to escape something.
Right. What about your LARP fighting thing that you do? What is that again?
LARP. Yeah, it's not LARP.
What is that again?
HEMA.
Yeah.
Historical European martial arts. I was just.
What if you had just like a big like phallus on your shield?
Yeah.
And like on the end of your sword, it was just like shaking back and forth as you're like running across the field. Do you guys run across fields at each other?
No.
Oh.
No. But I'm sure someone in history decided to paint a big old cock on their shield and was like, this'll distract the guy across from me.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I bet that has happened. I would put money on down that someone did that.
So I'm on the internet last week, and I see this post from another opposing movie podcast. I shouldn't say opposing. We're all a big community here.
Yeah, our only competition is ourselves.
That's right. You're only as good as your worst day. I don't know. I feel like that was a saying that I fucked up.
A little bit.
So, what I'm getting at though is like I don't give undue credit. I don't say something's awesome when I don't think it's awesome. So, I see this podcast from Those Movie Guys, or a post on Instagram from Those Movie Guys podcast, and they're asking what people thought of the new Predator movie. And while I enjoyed the new Predator movie, it had so much hokey horse shit in it. And so many things, the writers tried to do so many things that were off Bible or changing the Bible that it really upset me.
Yeah.
And so this podcast said, you know, what do you guys think? I said, it's the best Predator spoof that's come out this decade, is what I replied. And then he replied back like, oh, that's pretty harsh, man. Like, how so? So I'm not one of those people that just says something sucks because it sucks. So like I laid it out like point A, B, and C. Like these are things that I had a huge problem with. And we could do an entire podcast on the problems that I have with this movie.
Yeah, we kind of did one before
this.
Yeah,
you and me were just talking. Yeah, and we did what could have been an entire podcast about the problems with this new Predator movie. And but this dude like respected the fact that like I was like that deep on it, you know, and that I was that passionate about it. And I got to give it to him too. He wasn't one of those people who's like, oh, you're right, you're right. Like, he stuck to his guns and was like, no, it's a fucking awesome movie, and this is why I think it's an awesome movie. So we kind of got in like what could have been an argument, but like there was mutual respect there,
right?
Because he was going deep on it, and his love is for the original, which is where my love stems from as well. So like our hate and his love created something beautiful, and we spawned a friendship off of this where we were talking on Instagram. And so he was like, hey man, I'm going to check out your podcast. And he didn't ask. I offered. I said, oh yeah, I'll check out your podcast too. I like this idea of like a community instead of, well, you've got a movie podcast and I got a movie podcast, so we must be enemies, you know?
Exactly.
That's no good. Like podcasting is like, I want everybody to be famous.
Yeah, there's enough to go around for everybody.
There's enough to go around. Like Brian's dick, there's enough to go around for everybody.
There you go.
So I'm talking to Joe, and he says, we should do a cross thing. Like you should come on my podcast and like fucking tell me what you think about Predator. I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. Like, yeah, I mean, all I want to do is like talk and hear myself talk. So
that's true.
If I can go talk to someone else on someone else's show and like hear myself talk, yeah, that's like a dream come true. So, but I listened to those movies, you guys' podcast, and their podcast is fucking hilarious, dude. It's Joe and this dude Phil, and they've been friends forever, and they're funny as fuck. And they I think that I like can do some deep pulls. These guys, like, they are encyclopedias of movie knowledge. It's crazy.
Nice.
And then not just like past stuff, like they know everything about the movies that we've all seen and loved, but they're current on like everything.
Wow.
They've seen every movie preview, every show. And so like their podcast is cool to listen to because I don't have time to like catch all the stuff,
right.
Like people are telling me all the time.
Does?
Yeah. People are telling me all the time, do you see this? It's fucking amazing. You got to check it out. And I'm like, what? There's 9 seasons of that? Yeah. I'm not going to be able to start. I can't even fathom getting like that,
Right.
Like people are like, oh yeah, like I've been with Walking Dead for the whole time. I would never recommend that to somebody. Hey, you should start watching Walking Dead and try to catch up on 9 fucking seasons. No, it's not going to happen. But so anyway, so these guys, great podcast. They're getting all the news and they're going over it every week and telling you what you should be watching and what you're shouldn't be watching. And these guys are on point. Like they're really smart about what they like and what they don't like. They're super funny. Phil is like the hilarious sidekick. Oh, Phil's going to be pissed that I called him a sidekick. But Joe's the guy I've been talking to, and he's a great guy. He's all about like spreading the knowledge. They've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and he's helped me out with like a lot of technical questions and a lot of sound stuff. And so big shout out to those guys. Joe and Phil, you're killing it. You're awesome every week. You found yourself a new subscriber because I listened to one show and I was hooked. So big props to you guys. And also we're going to do, this is part of our 4 weeks of Halloween episodes. Yeah. And we're going to be doing 4 different Halloween episodes. And our last one is going to be on the Halloween movies themselves and Michael Myers. Ooh. And Joe is going to host on that podcast. So cool. Yeah, so it's going to be super cool. So we're going to do a crossover thing. And I'm going to just go ahead and invite myself onto their podcast right now. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we're going to talk about, but I'm going to be on your podcast. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. So, yeah. We've talked about everything other than...
Except Army of Darkness. Let's talk about... So, the movie picks up right after Evil Dead 2, which is the intro. He's like getting sucked into...
What I love about these 3 movies were that the first one happens and it ends, and then... The second one happens and disregards the end of the first one. And then the third one happens and changes everything that happened in the first and second one. So I love that though. Yeah, like some people could say lazy writing. Nope. Genius. That is a case of genius where they're just like, fuck everything that came before. We're going to redo it. And I had not seen Evil Dead 1 and 2, had no idea that they even existed. I saw Army of Darkness first.
Same.
And thought that the recap was just the beginning of the movie. Had no idea that was referring to 2 movies. Not only was it referring to 2 movies, but it actually had footage from the end of the second one of him getting sucked up into the portal and shit because they didn't want to redo that. That would be too expensive.
That's expensive. We're on a tight budget here.
And him falling down out of the cloud or whatever, out of the portal. Right. Him in the car fall, which is a fucking hilarious scene.
Yeah.
And they refilmed that, but they dropped the car like 2 times, and it didn't look as good as when they did it in the second one.
And hasn't that car been in like every Sam Raimi?
That car is the classic. Yeah, it's an Oldsmobile, and it's been in every single Sam Raimi movie. I didn't even realize it, but like it's in like The Quick and the Dead. It's hidden as a wagon.
Are you kidding me?
No, I just found that out.
I wonder if it's in like the Xena and Hercules show.
It is. It's in pieces. Oh. They put like hubcaps and shit like in the background and on like shields and stuff. It's in everything that he does, so that's super awesome.
Those shows were huge for me as a kid. The Hercules show with Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, me too.
Loved it, man.
Me too. And Bruce Campbell was featured on those as the Prince of Thieves.
Yeah.
which I thought was Robin Hood, but he wasn't Robin Hood on the thing. So, but yeah, Bruce Campbell was great in those shows, and I think Sam Raimi had something to do with those shows.
Yeah.
Definitely Ted Raimi did. But yeah, that car's in everything. It was Uncle Ben's car in Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then, but it's most heavily featured in Evil Dead because it's Ash's car.
And, he turns it into a weapon.
Yes, he turns it into like a massive like weapon of zombie killing destruction.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But yeah, so they show shots from Evil Dead 2 that starts off Army of Darkness, but at the end of Evil Dead 2, he goes back in time to the past, like to medieval times, which is like a super cool like. Which
I learned that Sam Raimi wanted to call the third movie Medieval Dead.
Yes,
and I was like, that would have been awesome.
Yes. Universal. So this is the Kevin Smith thing that happened, where Kevin Smith made Clerks, and then he went to Universal. It's always fucking Universal, dude. He went to Universal and he made Mallrats, which was just Clerks in a mall.
Yeah.
But it was like high budget, like Universal backed it. Universal does this quite a bit. They did
Ben
the same
Affleck
thing.
Was in it, bro.
Yes. So Universal picks up the third Evil Dead, and it was Evil Dead 3 on the script, and then, like you said, they had talked about doing the Medieval Dead and all that shit. Universal wanted to kind of like restart it and like start it up as its own thing, so they made him change the name of it.
Yeah.
So it went with Army of Darkness. But to the people in the know, it's Evil Dead 3.
Can you just leave it in the creator's hands? Like,
seriously,
you always have to
I know.
fuck with it,
And every time they fuck with it, it like gets fucked up.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't fuck with it. Universal, stop fucking with stuff. You took out the Jaws ride for a fucking Harry Potter world. Fuck you guys.
Kids.
It's kids. Kids ruin the world.
It's true.
Everything kids like sucks. Oh, I don't know if I should say that.
They're ruining Star Wars.
They're ruining Star Wars. Yes, they are.
Don't get me started because I'll just go off.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast we're going to do. Yeah. All right. So
he drops him in right into England. I assume it's England because it's King Arthur and then King Richard the Lionheart, which I was like, cool, we have one real king and one fantasy king, and they're both fighting each other. I was like, I like it.
Yeah, why not?
Fuck it.
But at the end of the second one, at the end of Evil Dead 2, they're like, all hail this guy that came from the future.
Hail to the king, baby.
Yeah. And the third one starts off and he's in shackles and he's being marched to his death.
They got over the warship real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just like, wait, no, that doesn't make for a good third movie. So let's make it that he's a prisoner, which is great. And he's walking with the, what do you call those stocks?
It's a stock.
Okay, so he's walking in the stock and he's got his stump shoved up in one,
yeah,
but
it's like he couldn't just
he could just pop it out. Yeah. Yeah, but that's one of the millions of things that make this movie amazing.
Yes.
And it's not because I know, like, you watch it and you're like, that was on purpose. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if it's on purpose, it's amazing. If it's like not on purpose, it's the new Predator. So they take him, and I love the character of Ash.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now: Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
And in this one, Bruce Campbell was like, he was young, he was sexy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I would have kissed him.
I would have, yeah. To start with,
right.
I would have kissed him.
I think you in this picture, I can see that
I'm
you were trying to kiss him
forward, and he's got his elbow kind of in my chest. He's like keeping me out.
Yeah,
because he knew.
Definitely got the bubble.
Yeah, he knew that I was coming in.
He can see a creepy fan from a mile away, I bet.
Yeah, for sure. And he noticed, like, right before I sat down, I popped an Altoid, and he that was like that was a big red flag for him.
He was like, oh boy, here we go.
I've been to this song and dance before. So yeah, so I love that. Yeah, this movie was where Bruce was like at his fittest. He was a comic book character, man. He had the chiseled jaw and the jet black hair, and he was pretty buff too.
He was.
His shirt's torn, and you can like see some underneath. Although when they do the, I'm getting you in a kind of a froth over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. But I noticed, like, in the drawings, they always, like, make him, like, rip six-pack and all that.
The cover of the movie where she's, like, hanging on his leg.
Yeah.
And he's standing, and he's just, like, he's just jacked.
Yeah, he is jacked. But in real life, he was more like Harrison Ford buff.
Right.
But they're marching him to his death, and they literally take him up to the pit with, like, he's with soldiers that are wearing one uniform, and the other guys are, like, wearing totally different uniforms. So it's obvious that, like, these guys are against each other. He doesn't realize until one of the men has been thrown into a pit and blood shoots out.
Like, out of a leaf blower.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, oh wait, like this is I'm not with these guys. Like it takes him that long to figure it out. And then he's like, and then of course the line is so great. He's like, I've never even met these assholes before.
He goes in there, goes in the pit, kills that fucking thing, gets his chainsaw, gets his shotgun.
Well, that's one of the greatest scenes
when he comes up with that shotgun when he's like retailing it. Walnut stock.
See this? This is my boomstick.
Cold blue steel. This baby's made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. Shop smart. Shop S smart. Any one of you primates touches me.
Yeah, so good. Like the dialogue is amazing. He delivers it without even a wink and a nod. Like he's so serious, and that's what makes it so great, you know. And I just love it so much. So yeah, so he comes out of the pit, and then he's gone from like prisoner to badass and savior of the world.
Yeah, when you shoot the king's sword in half, they gotta kind of listen to you.
That's the best, when he's like, sword boy!
He just puts his foot on that guy's shoulder and like draws his sword. I've always wanted to do that to somebody. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and then Bruce just blows it in half with his boomstick. It's glorious. I love too that all those guys were like trained British actors. Like they'd all been in like serious like Shakespearean stuff. And then they show up and they've got the dress and the castle behind him, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're familiar with this." And then
why does that guy have a shotgun?
Yeah, why does he dress like?
What's the Pontiac doing here?
Exactly. So from there, he tells them about the Necronomicon, and again, now he's being treated like a king. So he goes from like they're shackling him up and they're gonna throw him in a pit to like he's being fanned with a fucking leaf and they're feeding him grapes. Yeah. And then chick comes up to him and he tells her, he's like, blow.
Yeah. He's like, first you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow.
So fucking great.
He has my favorite fight in the movie is that scene with the witch.
Yeah.
She shows up and he's like,
yo, she bitch. Let's go.
So epic.
Yeah.
He's at that time, like we didn't have like tough guy heroes like that.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the closest was like Snake Plissken was kind of like that.
Just like the horror comedy mix really worked.
Yeah.
He got that metal hand, which was just like so cheesy but worked.
Well, and it was obviously like he didn't want to carry that chainsaw around, so he's like, guys, you got to figure something out.
It sucks.
And they're like, all right, metal hand. You know, of course you can take a piece of like armor that's hollow in the middle.
Yeah, and it works.
And it works like robotic. Yeah, and it just moves on your mind.
That's one of the great things about Army of Darkness is they're just like, move past it.
Right.
Like fucking deal with it, okay? We're moving on.
But then again, that's my problem with Predator.
A blacksmith made this because Predator's trying to be serious. Army of Darkness is like, they're letting you know, like, this is what's up.
Like, you're going to get this information and then we're going to move the fuck on because we don't have time to breathe. And the movie it runs like a lean like 94 minutes. Like
there's a lot packed in there.
They don't give it time to breathe because it's like he's a prisoner, he's our hero, he's on a mission.
He goes to the quest. He fucks up the words. The words I learned recently are a throwback or a call to the day the Earth stood still.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty
Klaatu
cool.
Varata Nektu.
Why couldn't you remember those? Why couldn't you write them down?
That's what I love it is that the guy he's like say him again. He's like,
I got it. I know your damn words, all right?
Fucking forgets them. That's just so great.
Klaatu Varata.
Klaatu Varata.
Like that's how you do magic?
Yeah,
that's how you pass
that
magic?
is how you pass magic. It's so good. Holy shit, yeah. And so for a movie with no budget too, that graveyard scene, it was all shot in miniatures. And it looks fucking cool. It looks really good. But that is where, for me, that's where the movie changes gears from being like an Evil Dead movie to like being what Army of Darkness became.
Yeah, Evil Dead was like individual in the cabin type horror.
Right, and the whole thing was that like the evil possesses a person, and then they get all like gross and they look like demony and
like
kind of witchy. And that's how the witch looked exactly. Yeah. And even the pit witch in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing looked all gross and weird too. But it was kind of still on board with like the Evil Dead monsters. But then from that point on, it's always the skeleton army.
It's like they use the power to like raise an army instead.
Right. And I like the idea of I understand what they were doing. They had seen Jason and the Argonauts and they were huge fans and they were like, we want to fucking do that too.
Yeah.
So that's like why they picked the skeleton army. But I really wish they would have like raised dead people and it would have looked like them.
I heard he had to go with skeletons to keep it from being NC-17. They were like, yeah, if you're gonna be bashing up zombies like with flesh and skin on them,
right? And
the whole thing with the car, the propeller on the car. That was what was going to push it to NC-17, which he already had a problem with, as you were mentioning earlier, with Evil Dead.
With Evil Dead, yeah, they had to make the blood green and white, and stuff coming out of people, but like you could have it spray out of the wall and it could be red.
I feel like today he could totally get away with it, but for some reason they were just a little bit more strict, a little more conservative at the time.
I used to understand really well like where the line was drawn with like rated R, rated PG-13,
now
rated R. It's so weird now. They're like, well, you can say fuck, but you can only say it once.
Right.
And it can't be in relation to the act of fucking, but you can say fuck.
Nothing gets like a PG or G anymore.
No, nothing.
It's almost like your baseline is PG-13.
Exactly. And then like I'm watching the new season of American Horror Story Apocalypse. They say fuck on that all the time. That is a television show. How can they say fuck?
I don't know.
Like, I don't get it. And they don't show tits. But they say fuck. Where is the line anymore? I do not know.
I remember when you could say shit on TV. That was a big deal.
The big deal was South Park did it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
It had the little counter in the corner and everything.
Yeah. I don't know where the line is anymore. It's like you can show all the dicks you want.
Apparently.
But you don't show boobs anymore.
What's up with that?
I don't know. And I don't want to get into political stuff right now. But seriously, what is the deal with like boobies? Like I see boobies in a show or in a movie and it's rare now. It used to be everywhere back in the 1980s.
Yeah, unless you go to HBO.
Well, oh yeah, so like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a huge hit, and one of the things that everybody talks about is, dude, they have so much tits on that show.
Yeah.
And it is. It's glorious.
And a fair share of dicks.
Oh, there's dicks.
Yeah.
Remember Hodor's dick?
They're just flying everywhere at you in that show.
Yeah. Hodor's dick scared the shit out of me. I was like, there are dicks that are that big? Like, what do you do with a dick that big? Like,
you lose consciousness.
Seriously. But, like, does it come out of the girl's butt? Does it bend in the middle and come back out the same way? So it's like...
So I have an inappropriate story time if we want to, let's get into this.
Absolutely, we're going to get into this.
I was working with a guy at Target who... I was working security there, and he was working on the floor. He was a cool dude, so we'd talk sometimes. And there was some really good looking girls working there, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm fucking that one, and I'm fucking that one, and I'm fucking that. And at first I was like, all right, like whatever, dude, bullshit.
Yeah.
Then he brought up his phone a little after we got to know each other a little bit better, and was like showing me all these pictures.
The proof.
And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, dude, how are you? Like, you're fucking like 4 or 5 chicks that work here, and they don't seem to like be upset about it. And he's like, well, I've just told them all up front, like, I'm not dating you, I'm just gonna have sex with you. And he goes, and I've got a huge dick. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he just shows me a picture on his phone of his 1.5 foot erection, I want to say. Yeah, he goes, when I'm beating it up, he's like, I can like see it, like the impression of it, like in their guts. And he's like, and so he goes, some chicks hate it. He goes, some chicks, they see it and they pull their pants back up. And he's like, and some chicks love it. He's like, so chicks that love it, they eat out of the palm of my hand. I was like, well, good for you. I'll never know what that feels like. Good job, man. And now I can I think we're still buddies on Facebook. I can never like see anything he posts without thinking about his dick. Yeah, it's just like, Jesus, there it is. It's in my brain. That's
like Hodor's dick. Yeah. I've seen it, and I can never not see his dick.
Right.
Mark Wahlberg in Boogie Nights, I saw his dick in that. His dick, yeah. Whether and there's rumor that it may have been his dick, it may not have been his
stunt
dick.
Cock.
But regardless, I always think of that dick when I see him. So, good move on Marky Mark's part,
for sure.
If that's not his dick, although
we got any black guys on set,
he pulls his cock out, it's just like big black veiny motherfucker, and he's like, I get it tan.
That's mine.
Yeah, that's my Wahlburger. Yeah. Yeah, no, but seriously, like, I've never had that problem.
But I've heard that's why he had to go with skeletons instead of zombies, was to keep
because their dick
from NC-17.
Oh,
the NC-17
NC-17 thing.
He had to raise the skeleton army. Then he has the fight with Evil Ash because the miniature one he swallows, which that was great because the whole line of like good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun.
I'm the guy with the gun. Such a great line.
Such a great line after he blasts that dude in the face.
Okay, am I the only one? So like we skipped over the scene where all the little ashes come out, which is amazing
And creepy.
Yeah. Yes, it was very cool.
How boss is that when the dude, like the guy jumps in his mouth, right? They
Yeah.
do the whole like Gulliver's Travel where they tied him down,
right?
And like the dude jumps in his mouth. So he just straight up grabs a pot of he just grabs a
boiling kettle.
He's like, yeah, you like that? Yeah, like that? And I was just like, what a boss!
That hurts me when I see that scene. I can feel it go all the way down. Like, so he essentially boils this dude in his tummy.
And
then, am I the only one that thinks that looks like a snatch on his? He's like, oh my god, what is that? And he pulls his shirt down and it's like, it's an eyeball, but it looks like a pussy.
Of his shoulder, like, ugh.
Yes, but that goes to what an amazing physical actor Bruce Campbell is.
Yes.
He's now playing a two-headed version of himself.
Fighting with himself.
He does a weird little crab crawl down the hill.
Yeah.
Where the puppet is looking away so that you can't see how shitty the puppet looks. Oh, nice. Hit your head on the microphone. Real professional, Brian. So great scene. Another great scene. He chainsaws the dude to death, cuts him, dismembers him because that's the only way you can kill the evil dead.
Yeah, but he buries them all in one hole. It's like, scatter that motherfucker, man.
Hey, man, he's in a hurry. He doesn't have time to be digging all kinds of holes, all right?
Well, he had apparently had time to stay in the windmill that night because he was being chased by this thing you never see.
He needed a rest.
It always bothers me, like, you never see that.
You see
Whatever
it.
chases him through the woods.
You see it in Evil Dead versus Ash. Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Oh, okay.
You finally see it, and it's pretty grotesque, but it's cool. But yeah, that's a great idea for cheap filmmaking. Basically, they're just like, you never see the monster in Jaws. That's when it's awesome.
True.
It doesn't get cheesy till you see the actual robot.
It's true.
So let's just never show it and let's use the camera as like
Call back to Predator.
a thing. I use that in my first movie that I ever made was a total ripoff of the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I called it Book of the Dead, and it was about the Necronomicon, and I was playing like Ash because I just wanted to be Ash.
True.
So yeah,
That's what you do.
I was like, if I'm gonna take the time to make a movie, I'm just gonna make myself awesome,
right?
And make this movie. And we did the same thing with the camera and everything. But yeah, it was glorious. And so anyway, one of my favorite lines is when he goes into the pit he's burying the evil Ash. He's like, hey, you got something on your face. And then he throws the dirt on it.
Yeah.
So, like, I have a personal story where my wife's rabbit died. And, like, she's so sad. She's, like, crying and shit. And I'm digging a hole in the backyard. And I fucking throw the rabbit in there. And I'm like, hey, you got something on your face? Throw it in there. And she hated me for so long. Like, I was in the doghouse for so long about that.
Come on, we're just trying to make it. We're just be a little humorous.
Just add a little levity to it. You know, we're all sad that this rabbit, they used to stick his little rabbit dick out of his cage and piss into my kitchen and do his little shit pellets into my kitchen. Just like, he'd put his little butthole up to the cage, so it was like a furry little butthole squeezing up to the cage, and then just BB pellets all over the kitchen.
Lauren's lucky you just didn't eat him after he died.
Oh, this wasn't Lauren. This was the wife that I'm no longer with. And all of these stories, you can understand why I'm no longer with her. So yeah, that was a good face though, where you were like, "Uh-oh, I stepped in the poop this time."
The
great.
one-liners, I think, like immortalize it. The way Bruce Campbell did all his great one-liners and that, like you said, he doesn't do the wink and the nod.
No.
He just fucking does it.
He just gives it to you.
Like, the movie just holds up. You can watch that any point now or in the future and you'll laugh your ass
Every
off.
Halloween. It's not Halloween until I've watched Army of Darkness. Yeah. I do it every single year, and usually 2 or 3 times throughout the year. Like, I gotta pop in Army of Darkness.
For sure.
And because it's just that classic of a movie, and it gives me that feeling like Halloween because, like, I don't even know. It's like it's part of the cheesiness of the effects or like whatever. There's no CG in it. Right. It's all puppets. It's all tangible things, and that makes me feel like I used to build a haunted house in my garage every year, and I feel like I know what the bones and stuff smell like. I know what the fog smells like. You know?
Appreciate the movies so much more that put their put their time or their effort into practical effects rather than green screen. Like that's what sets like the first Star Wars trilogy apart from the prequels. That's why I love the original Conan movie with Arnold. You're just
Yeah.
like, dude, that guy's just running around knocking people off of horses
Yeah.
and punching people in the face, like throwing people downstairs. And then you watch a movie nowadays, you're like, I don't really know what they're going through. Like, this could be anything.
Well, and that's the big thing with, like, say, like, the new Mission Impossible movie, where Tom Cruise, I know he's done a bunch of those stunts, like, for real,
Yeah.
but because they're mixing it with all this CG and stuff, you
Right.
don't know what's
You don't
real
know.
and what's not. Whereas before, in, like, the 80s, when you saw a cool explosion, you were like, fuck, dude, they blew that up.
They had to get C4. They had to time it
Yeah,
right. Like, They
yeah.
had to do it right instead of just like, oh, we'll just put that in later.
And film it right, because you can film an explosion and it just looks like a little fire and
Yeah,
stuff.
and then you're like, oh, looks like we just wasted our
You're like,
explosives budget.
that was the one warehouse we had to blow up, like, or like in Tropic Thunder.
Yes, they're not even filming yet. Oh,
He's like, let's go, motherfucker. Yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, it means so much more when it's done for real. And to know that, like, you know, these guys had to fight to make the movie the way they wanted to make it, you know, because Universal was involved and they did the, you know, they had to, like,
right.
you had to, like, tell them, like, okay, so he's going to, like, put this chainsaw, or he's going to put this metal hand on his arm and he's going to say groovy, you know?
Yeah.
And they had to, like, be like, yeah, that's what's going in this movie. This is a real movie we're making. And they had to, like, explain that to people that don't understand that kind of thing, you know, because with a studio. Universal is good about giving people money to, like, let's see what you can do when we can give you more money, and it almost never works out.
That's the problem, is playing at that level.
I think that limitations create creativity. You know, problems, genius comes out of a problem.
Pressure. Yeah, I would say the pressure makes diamonds thing. Not always limitations, but the pressure, the anxiety of a deadline, or the anxiety of, like, other people are going to see this, or other people are going to judge this, or this is, like, if I don't make this right, it's not going to be funded well.
Right.
You know, something like that. Like, but I hate the limitations whenever I hear about somebody who went into a studio and their project got completely changed just because some studio executive's like, well, if I'm going to put my name anywhere near this, or if we're going to put money into this, then I have to have input on A, B, and C.
Right.
It's like, are you the creator? Did you write this? Have you ever written anything in your life? Or you sit behind a desk and jerk yourself off all day?
Right. Yeah.
Shut up and let me do my thing, and you fucking just give me some money, and then I will make you money.
Yeah.
You will be happy.
Yeah. I remember James O'Barr talking about when he was trying to get The Crow made. He took it around to, like, every studio, and at one point they even talked about making it like an animated series, like a Saturday morning animated
Wow.
cartoon, and they wanted to give The
Wow.
Crow a dog that, like,
Why not?
was like his
Yeah.
partner.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the problem with being an artist, is like you can give in and be like, okay,
Yeah, because
I
someone's
wanna-
offering you money,
yeah, I wanna
and
make money.
everybody is a starving artist
right
at first, you know.
Or you're
So
like, or I want to stay true to my vision. I just
Exactly.
had another writer contact me today and was like, hey, have you heard of this publishing company? They're telling me I need to put this much money up front. They were trying to pressure me to sign a contract during our first conversation. I was like, no, fuck that.
Yep.
Anybody who's trying to pressure you your first conversation into signing something, you if you hang up, you won't get another contract from us. Like, that's shady.
yeah.
And that's the shit you have to, like, wade through and
Yeah.
get through to make it.
Well, part of it is you're a businessman. Your creative thing is your business,
Right.
and you have to be a good businessman. It's part of it, you know.
Yeah.
Even it's unfortunate because sometimes it stifles creativity, but not always. You know, some people stick to their guns, like James O'Barr did with The Crow, and they made a very good adaptation of that. And it's been in development. Now they're trying to redo it.
Of course.
And it's been in development hell for all these years
Yeah.
because, you know, they just can't get it right. And there's just some things they should just fucking leave alone.
There's a lot of things they should leave alone. And there are so many other good original ideas out there. Like, go pick some of those up. Stop the soft reboots. Stop
Yeah.
the remakes.
Yeah.
We've fucking got enough of them already. This is the age of remakes. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Sick of it, man.
We gotta finish off the Army of Darkness.
They get, he gets that book. They come back to the castle, and he tells the castle, like, to prepare for attack.
Another greatest line. Comes back from the cemetery. He's walking in and everybody's like, "Oh, you did it! You got the book and everything." And he's like, "Yeah. Get the fuck out of my face."
Yeah. And they like prep to get ready for the attack, and so, like, everyone's like it's the montage, like everyone putting on armor, and they like are retrofitting his car. He has like a science book in the back, which
A
then
Fangor magazine.
yeah, which then allows them to, like, build gunpowder.
Yeah,
They build, like,
yeah.
grenade.
Tell us from a history standpoint, like, could they have made, if he had, like, the recipe, did they have the stuff to make gunpowder back then?
As far as I know, yes, but technically yes, if he's got the recipe, but in medieval Europe, no, I'm not. They probably don't have all the ingredients that they need. This gunpowder.
When did gunpowder come in? Where they switched from swords to gunpowder?
Gunpowder came from China, so they had it first, and they were building fireworks with it. And then somebody in China was like, "Ooh, I can build a projectile weapon with this."
Right.
So as early as the 1300s, the Chinese figured out how to like launch rockets at the Mongols with their gunpowder, and then it turned into more like a siege weapon because it's hard to control. It took a long time for it to get pared down into like a manageable musket. Even the first like blunderbusses and muskets, like you can fire once, but then it's
how
like
many
grab a
people?
spear.
How many people just fuck themselves up trying to like make a gun?
I want to say hundreds. Like that old gunpowder's so dangerous and deadly. Like you see right in Evil or Army of Darkness, dude's looking at him making the gunpowder. Like, let me get this candle. Let me get this candle over
He's
here.
like,
You know, some
moves the
dude
candle.
was like, man, it's dark in here. Like, bring that over. Like, what happened to our alchemist? Like, I don't know.
I imagine though the guy that was actually making it all had like a bunch of slaves that was like, okay, your turn to try.
Right? Yeah, they're not grinding that themselves. No.
But even then, you're like, if this slave blows his hand off, he's not going to be able to fucking plow anymore.
And they didn't know, like, can't store it together. You can't like put it all in one room. And
Right.
It's gonna be a big kaboom.
Man, that must have been a nightmare. But in real life, Ash is the one who taught them how to make gunpowder.
Right, with his high school biology.
Yeah,
book.
yeah, because he didn't even know. He just knew, we need some guns. Where are your guns? And they're like, we have no guns, sire. And he was like, well, let's make some goddamn guns then. So he like, they basically looked at his boomstick.
Yeah.
And then like, what do you call that when you like backwards
reverse
engineered his boomstick and like he started firearms. So like instead of Smith and Wesson, it was probably Ash and Wesson in that new timeline.
So in this timeline, if it's King Richard, then we're going 1200s medieval Europe.
So in 1200 BC, before Christ. Wait a minute.
No, 1200s AD.
AD.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Anno Domini, year of our Lord.
I don't know what that means.
Means after Jesus is done.
Yeah, after the death of Jesus in BC, before Christmas.
Doesn't stand for after death.
It stands for after the death of Jesus and
Latin.
before Christmas.
It's Latin. It's Anno Domini for year of our Lord.
So, at the end of Army of Darkness, he of course beats the Army of Darkness. He makes the evil happen. And then we have two endings. Some people believe in one and some people believe in the other. In the theatrical ending, Ash goes back to his normal time, where it's no longer a Smith & Wesson, it's now an Ash & Wesson.
And it's Jane Fonda.
And Jane Fonda is his piece of sultry ass.
He's trying to impress with this story about time travel, which she's not buying.
Yeah, like she doesn't believe at all.
Who's gonna buy that?
Yeah. And he's like, I could have been king, but instead I came back to nail Bridget Fonda.
Work at S-Mart.
Name's Ash. Housewares.
I think that would be cool to work at S-Mart. And then we get one last Evil Dead witch.
We realize he didn't say the words right.
He didn't say the words right, yeah.
So
and so the Evil Dead is back, and he said, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Where he rides a cart, somehow keeps this cart going like a skateboard with his lever action, hip firing, not aiming.
No.
He's Bruce Campbell, he doesn't need to aim.
And she's doing flips.
He's doing flips, he's hip firing, whap, 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 tears this witch up.
Yep, tears her up, she's dead, and then he gets some sugar baby.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
He even found time, this is my favorite part, is he even found time to find the unnecessary rifle holster to strap across his chest just so he could spin it in his hands and sheath it at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the store was under attack by the evil,
right,
by a witch, and he's like, shit, I need a cool way to holster this after this fight.
Yeah. And he didn't pay for that. Like,
no,
he stole that for sure.
Still on the rifle. He's just didn't take the price tag off, but found time to put the holster on.
Just in case.
Yeah.
He had that underneath his schmuck the whole time, just in case some shit went down. He's always fucking ready because he's Ash.
That's right.
And then the other alternate version, which a lot of people dig more than that version.
Sure.
I love that version, and it's kind of polished and whatever, and it's kind of quick, but I love that like ending. I thought that was a sweet ending. The other ending though is that he takes the potion to go back to the future, and then he has to like sleep through all the years. He doesn't just like go through a portal.
Yeah. Like
his body has to like survive all those years, and he winds up, because he's such a fucking dumbass, he takes one extra drip and it like puts him a decade ahead, and he comes to and the Earth is destroyed.
He's like dystopian England, I think.
Which is weird. Yeah, he's like in London.
Yeah, he didn't change, like he was in London when he drank the potion, so like his body didn't move, which actually makes sense.
Does it?
His body doesn't just like transport over to America.
Well, yeah, it doesn't transport over to America, but what he transported from America into
That's a portal.
London.
That's different than a time travel potion. We're talking about a portal.
Man.
Nobody wants to get transported to medieval America and be like, oh, there's a lot of Indians here. Cool.
What? Seriously, why don't we ever talk about what was going on in medieval America?
Yeah, you know they had a city the same size as Paris here?
In America?
Uh-huh.
God damn.
We killed, not we, but European explorers killed 90% is the high estimate. 90% of Native Americans with disease before we like really met most of those tribes.
Right.
So by the time they came across that city, it was just like everyone was already dead.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, we talk about like
smallpox.
damn. And like we talk about like the pyramids, what was going on in Egypt, and then what was going on in Europe at the same time, and all this stuff. Can you imagine all the history that happened in America that we don't even know about?
Because it didn't get written down. It didn't get recorded.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Mongolians didn't. Well, they did a little bit. Like a lot of tribal people don't write down their own history, but they would run into groups like the Romans or the Chinese that would like write it down for them because they conquered them.
Right.
But they were so isolated over here in the Americas, and they weren't writing anything down. We just don't know. They're a very oral tradition. They pass things down orally, and so much of that has been lost.
Well, and you have to wonder too, when a conqueror writes your history how much
is
they
written
like
by the victors. That's why you like as a historian, you really have to like. The only real true primary source we have on the Gallic Wars is Julius Caesar in the third person. He won't even write, I did this. He's writing in the third person how he just fucked these people up.
Yeah.
And you're like, how much of this is true and like how much of this is... Because it is for politics. Like he's writing it to look good. So it's like, how much of it is to make you look good?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to take everything you read that's that old with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah. It's a crazy world we live in, man.
It is.
And all of that came from Army of Darkness.
That's right.
The most fantastic film ever made, Army of Darkness. So just to, in closing, I've known you. How long have we known each other? Like 10 years?
Yeah.
Almost 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah, so we've known each other like 10 years. One of the first years that we like hung out, you came over and we did a haunted house on Halloween. And our whole thing was like, after the haunted house, we're going to get our ladies and we're going to kick back and we're going to watch Army of Darkness because neither one of our ladies had seen it. And we're like,
yeah.
I was kind of just dating Lauren. And were you married yet?
No, I didn't get married, but I was with.
So so we were both with our current 101s.
This is why it wasn't good to have me on the sex episode, is because I've been with the same person since I was 18.
Right. And like that's why I'm nervous about doing another episode, because I love my wife.
Right.
But you don't do like the weird shit with the girl that you love.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like I can't talk about anything because it's like, well, I might want to go home and do that tonight. So
right, yeah. So like you have the problem of like you're gonna have to go home to the person that you were just telling stories about. I have the opposite problem where I have to go into the next room with the person that I was not talking about.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a little worse, a little more awkward.
I told the strawberry story last week, and I've been in some heat over that for like a week. So yeah, we got together that Halloween, and we thought it was going to be awesome. And we thought that the women that we loved were going to think it was just as awesome as we did.
And they were like, yeah, it was okay.
Mine didn't even say that. Mine said that movie's retarded, and you're a retard for liking that movie.
Thanks for your honesty.
And she said, and your friend Brian is a retard too.
She's spot on with that one. The nail on the head, Lauren.
I'm kidding. My wife would never say the word retarded.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I always forget that's one you can't say anymore.
You can't say retard anymore. Yeah.
And that makes me sad because like I literally never used it to put anyone with Down syndrome down.
No.
It was just like you were doing something stupid, and it was like, man, quit being.
But that's the problem, is that you can't say gay because
can't say faggot.
You can't say gay. Well, you're being gay.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, well, it's not because you're a gay person and I don't like you.
Yeah.
Dude. It's because you're doing something stupid. Yeah. But then you're like, wait a minute. You're calling that person stupid.
I know. Now, once it was explained to me, I was like, oh, yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. I'm a retard and I didn't get it.
I wasn't looking for no trouble.
I have permanently scarred my body with the main character from this movie.
A beautiful scar.
It's a beautiful scar. Yeah, I mean, like, people say, like, my mom's big thing was, like, the Bible says that the body is your temple. Well, I say if the body's your temple, you need to decorate that motherfucker. And I have done that, and I have been very particular. I have 2 tattoos a Joker tattoo. My second tattoo is Ash from Army of Darkness. Not Ash from Evil Dead. Not Ash from Ash versus the Evil Dead. Ash from Army of Darkness.
Did you hear the choir just sing when you said it?
I did hear the angels sing.
We'll have to cut that out. I apologize.
Nope, that's going in, motherfucker.
There's some other stuff out there now.
There's some other stuff out there.
There's a new show.
There's a new series that has recently been canceled, which brought a tear to my eye. It was a great series.
Yeah.
Got canceled with season 3. There are movies. There's a remake movie. There are books. There are up to 3 video games for this character that Bruce Campbell did the voice for. All of those things are awesome, and they're all part of the
fabric.
It's all part of the universe, of
Yeah.
the Evil Dead universe, and there's no like offshoots. There's no one's else has ever played Ash.
Right.
So it's very cool that like it's still pure. It hasn't been distorted yet. Although Bruce Campbell did just say he's ready. He's done. He says he's retired from playing Ash.
And he's done enough.
And he's done enough.
He's an amazing guy, and he's definitely like the best person for this character. But he's done enough.
I would be happy if the character just was done.
Yeah.
Like
I'd be totally fine with
I
that.
really liked the way they ended the series. They ended it in a way where they could have brought it back for a 4th season, but it was also like a nice end for the whole thing. And like Ash can just like be done now. And I'd be totally happy with that. But I know someone's going to get their greedy little hands in there. And Bruce Campbell has said that he's okay with somebody else coming in and taking over Ash.
Well, what else is he going to say, you know?
Right. Like he's going to be like, if any motherfucker tries to put that chainsaw on their arm, I'm going to fucking cut their dick off. Yeah, no. Bruce Campbell is...
He's a classy guy.
He's a classy guy, and he wouldn't do that.
Did you just look over?
I did just look over at my picture of Bruce Campbell that's sitting right next to me. A picture of me sitting next to Bruce Campbell.
Jason can't make eye contact with me during this podcast. He just can't stop looking at Bruce Campbell over here in the picture frame.
I gotta touch it. I'm gonna touch it. Yeah, so I met Bruce Campbell for real, and it was super cool. I was working at a security guard in Flagstaff Medical Center, and
I thought after we got fired in the lawsuit and everything, we weren't supposed to say that we worked there.
I don't know. I never signed anything. Fuck you guys. Yeah, so I was working at Flagstaff Medical Center, and a buddy of mine came to me and said, Bruce Campbell's going to be in town today, one night only, doing a book signing for his new book, If Chins Could Kill. I was like, a great title, right?
It's a great title for him.
Yeah. So I was like, this is the most crazy thing. This is Flagstaff, Arizona, dude.
Nobody comes there.
Nobody comes there. Yeah. And at the time, like, I had never done like Comic-Con or any of that stuff yet. This was going to be the first like celebrity sighting I'd ever had. I couldn't miss out on this opportunity.
So you probably made it pretty awkward for him, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, super awkward. Yeah. But so I go to Barnes and Noble, and I left work.
Yeah, you just ditched work.
And I didn't like go home and shower. Like I went in my work uniform, like with my badge and my belt, my baton and everything. Went to Barnes and Noble and got in line with all these other freaky freaks.
You shoved yourself to the front of the line using your security uniform.
Yeah, I was like, everybody stand back. This is important business. Mr. Campbell will be with us soon. Mr. Campbell, I'm the first in line. But no, it's super cool. So like they line us up, and the first thing, like the Barnes and Noble lady comes out and she's like, okay, Mr. Campbell will sign one signature for every book that you purchase. And we're like, oh, you know, because all these people brought like figures and posters and shit, you know, that they want to sign. Bruce Campbell comes out and like he shoos the lady off the table, and he stands up on the table and he's like, I'll sign whatever the fuck you guys want. All right, everybody's like, yeah.
I love that guy.
So I'm standing in line. Like I came straight from work. I didn't have anything. I was gonna have to buy the book there, like at the table, and then like get him to sign it.
Tits.
I would have him sign my tits, but I was actually there. And this girl that was standing in line behind me, she starts chatting me up, you know, because we're like in line for like an hour. It turns out her mom is an administrator at the hospital. So I'm like, I'm fired. But no, she was really cool. And she's like, hey, if you'll take my picture with Bruce Campbell, then I'll jump back in line. And then when you sit down, I'll take your picture. And then I'll give the picture to my mom and she can get it to you because you're like all over the hospital, right? I'm like, yeah, cool. So we're shooting the shit or whatever.
Talking the poop,
yeah. And I should say that this was an attractive young lady. So me talking to her at the time was like really boosting my ego up a lot, and she was getting really hot and bothered because I knew like everything about Army of Darkness. Like I was her kind of nerd. So she was getting all hot and bothered. So like, so she sits down with Bruce, and I'm standing right there like listening to everything they say, because he's just at a table. So like she sits down and she goes, "Will you say, 'Give me some sugar, baby'?" And this is the first time that I'm close enough where I can hear him. I'm sure 4,000 other people, including the dudes, have already asked him to do this.
Right.
And he goes, I can't do it. Like, he's like, it's not a dog and pony show.
Yeah. Hey, good for him.
And I'm like, okay, I got to respect that, So he goes, I'll write it in your book, though. So he writes it in her book and everything. And she had a lamp and an action figure, too. So he fucking signs her lamp. Yeah, she was like hardcore. Signs the action figure, and I take her picture and everything. And of course, Bruce is like arm around her and like, hey. And then like I sit down and he's like way behind me.
In your photo, it appears that security is grabbing you and he's making a hasty exit from the table is what it looks like.
Right.
In that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we took the picture, and I never thought I'd get the picture, because of just the circumstance. Yeah. But so the young lady she's walking away, and he goes, "Hey," and she turns around and he goes,
"Give me some sugar, baby."
And like I saw her panties melt right off. Steam came out of her jeans, dude. Like she almost like two ladies had to like grab her because she went weak in the knees. And I was just like, God damn, to have that kind of power. That's amazing.
Whew.
Yeah. So that's my I Met Bruce Campbell story.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, you had to show him your artwork, right?
Didn't have it at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't you run into him later, though?
Yes, but after...
When did he get the restraining order?
Yeah. I did. I ran into him in his master bedroom at his house.
Who knew?
Who would have knew that he was going to be there? He hadn't been there for 2 hours previous as I was rifling through his underwear drawer. No. Yeah, I've seen him post time, like quite a few times, actually. And it's always like... I don't want to pay to like walk up and see him because I've already kind of like sat right next to him and like talk. Oh, another part of that story, going back a little bit, I'm wearing the security guard uniform. So he's like, "Hey, you're a security guard?" And I'm like, "Yeah, at the hospital." And he's like, "That's crazy, man." He's like, "Have you ever heard of hillbilly moonshine?" And like, I thought he was fucking with me. He's like, "No, I've been reading about it. Like, these hillbillies are doing hillbilly moonshine, and it gives them, like, super strength and makes them crazy. And they wind up going to the hospital all fucking crazy and shit." And I was like, that happens every day.
We just call it meth.
We just call it, we call it methamphetamines. But maybe it was hillbilly moonshine. I don't know. But he was like, he's like, "That's crazy stuff." And I was like, that is crazy stuff. But I didn't know, My whole thing was, like, I was in line, and I was like, don't ask him to say something from Army of Darkness.
Right.
Don't ask him to do that.
Don't let him see your erection.
Stupid. Don't let him see my erection. Yeah, exactly. I had pleated pants.
Yeah.
So it was like, hide it in the pleats.
Yep.
Hide it in the
Good
pleats.
call.
Yeah. I sat down as fast as I could. I was trying not to be sweaty, but it was like dripping off my badge. Like I was so like nervous and sweaty, as you've seen. Yes. Like every time I do this podcast, by the end of it, I'm just drenched. And it's partially because, people think that you just get on like the fucking podcast and you just talk. It's not like that. You have to hop yourself up on fucking...
Jason pours his heart, his soul, and his sweat into every episode of this podcast.
That's right. I don't sleep the night before, and I don't sleep the night of, because I'm just like still so fucking amped. And I'm like, I should have said this. I've seen Bruce Campbell since then at Comic-Cons and shit, and it's always like, "Hey, Bruce," because now they have it set up. You have to pay.
I will say it's one of my least favorite parts of Comic-Con is how you go. It's like, "Hey, Nathan Fillion's here. $80 if you want an autograph."
Yeah,
it's like,
man.
Whoa, I understand. Like, he's making money. I'm a goddamn teacher.
Right.
Like, he's an actor.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I already paid to get into Comic-Con.
And I even understand that for like an autograph. Like, yeah, you want an autograph, you want a picture, pay for it. But like, they should set it, like, you used to be able to just walk up to their table and like say, "Hey, how's it going?"
Exactly. Now you have to pay just to get in the line.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't want an autograph or a picture, you could still go say hi.
And there's always like a shady motherfucker standing there that you're like, does this person work here or are they just hanging out? And then you like try to like get close to the star and they're like, "Hey, you do not enter this area unless you pay the $80. And yeah, it's crazy. I almost got my ass kicked by one of those guys at the horror movie convention because I was trying to take a picture of Lance Hendrickson, Bishop from Aliens.
Okay, yeah.
I was trying to get a picture of him. Like, I had the camera like on my chest and I was like, I'm just taking a selfie. And like this lady, like his handler or whatever, was like, "Hey, you can't take any pictures." And I just like turned around real fast, like I didn't know what she was talking about. And then
like, what are you gonna do about it?
fucking Eddie, of course, was like, "Hey man, that lady's trying to yell at you." And I was like, "Shut up!
Shut the fucking.
God damn it, Eddie."
That guy's not gonna do shit. You turn around and you're like, what are you gonna do? Fucking nothing. Snap the picture. Snap a couple of him. Fuck him.
That's what I take you around for, because you're my bodyguard, to be like,
that's-
"What are you gonna do?"
I enjoy that shit. What are you gonna do? Fucking nothing.
Nothing. That's what you're gonna do.
Also, you have to make the selfie face like you really were taking like a duck face. Be like, and then just snap the picture.
I was so focused on trying to get the picture that I couldn't even make a duck face. And then later, I look back at the picture. It's just like this blurry picture of the table and like his book on it. I didn't get him at all. So it was ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. Alicia, the girl who has been on the podcast a couple times, hilarious Alicia. She's a songwriter. She wrote our theme song. She also wrote the hit song "Still Don't Leave Me," which I made a music video for, and I hope you've all gone and enjoyed that.
It's amazing. I can vouch for that.
It's worth a download for sure. She wrote a new song, sort of. So I shouldn't say a couple months ago. This was many months ago. Like, actually, it was over a year ago.
You're just old.
I'm just fucking old. Yeah, I'm senile too. So like, a couple years ago, we had a film challenge coming up where I was like, I want to write, instead of like a poop comedy, which is pretty much what I'm famous for.
Stick to your strengths.
Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, but I wanted to try something different. So I wrote kind of this like Quentin Tarantino-esque, like it was like a drug exchange thing with like these Tarantino type characters,
Yeah.
So I went to Alicia and I was like, "Hey, you always write songs about like dicks and farts and stuff. Do you think you could write a song that's like serious, like kind of in the vein of like a Tarantino kind of thing?" And she was like, "I can try." 20 minutes later, she sends me a fucking song, and like the lyrics and stuff. And I'm like, "This is
pretty fast,
pretty fucking cool." Yeah. So anyway, she recently, now that she has some of this new stuff because of this podcasting stuff, she can like record her stuff. So she like recorded another song. And it's called "Calling Me Home," and it's fucking amazing. Like, I can't believe this girl's talent. And like, I'm not one of those people that like, I will not say like, "Oh yeah, you're really good because you're my sister."
Right. No, if you're shitty, Jason will let you know.
I will let you know that you're shitty. And
I've shown Jason some of my writing, and he's like, "Did you do this with your left hand?" Like,
never.
Did you fuck this up, didn't you? And I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't show anybody that. And then, other times he'll be honest and say it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, well, you just kind of like, you said, "I'll be honest and tell you it's pretty good." So you kind of tooted your own horn there.
Yeah.
But that's what...
Because it is pretty good.
That's pretty good. It is pretty good. Yeah, I'll give it to you, Yeah, you're a talented writer. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't think... I would literally not say it.
I've written a lot... I'll put it this way. I've written a lot more shit than gold.
We all have. Like, I've made probably over 40 shorts, and like half of one is good.
Yeah, they say you got to write 1 million words before you stop writing bullshit.
They say everybody has 10 bad movies in them when you're like making movies, and like,
man, we've had 40.
I've had like 40 bad movies. Yeah, like I took some movies off other people.
What a saint.
Yeah, you're welcome, Quentin Tarantino. So yeah, and speaking of which, my Quentin Tarantino movie never happened. We wound up making a dick and fart joke movie because we were like, this is too hard.
Yeah.
So, but we won a bunch of awards for that dick and fart movie.
Which one was that?
That was Area 52.
Okay.
Starring Alicia,
yeah.
actually. So that one went to a festival and we did really good with it. So the Tarantino thing, it never got made.
I don't know about your other listeners, but I would love to see more movies from you.
I'm gonna start actually. Yeah. I just wrote another thing. We're gonna do another film festival.
I love doing it with you, and I love watching the finished product, even if I'm not involved. You always make really funny fucking movies.
Right on. Well, thank you. Yeah. I'm gonna hug you after the podcast.
Okay. No clothes?
Well, no clothes, of course. Okay. Why would I put pants on to hug you?
Right. All right. Just checking. Free ball this podcast. People.
Exactly. So you were in one of my movies though, just one.
Yeah. And
it was one that was perhaps ill-conceived. Wait, I should take it back. It was not ill-conceived. It was an amazing idea. It was just I don't know.
We used a trash can as a time machine.
Like, we used a trash can as a time machine. You played a gay time traveler.
So the only thing I had to change was being the time traveler.
Well, kind of like you're a history teacher, so isn't that kind of like being a time traveler?
I was definitely. This was many years ago.
It was
definitely not
pre
the same person.
You were not. It was pre all of that. Yeah, it was pre-teacherish. But so you were a little Brian Gunn.
Yeah.
But you were still a badass though, and probably not that comfortable to get into the shower with another man.
That actually didn't bother me.
And
No, for real though, like that part, I've showered with 40 dudes before. Like there's one column in the middle of the shower with like 5 shower heads that come out of it. It's like
that seems
you're getting some water. Or you're not.
That seems a little less gay though than just being in the shower with one other dude.
Yeah. And he was, and the funny thing is, like, I joke about it, but he was gay.
Hey, he listens to this podcast, and he's happily married and has a wife and a child. Not gay, actually.
Whoops.
That was acting. But
he is a fantastic actor.
You guys were making eyes at each other for sure.
He's very attractive.
Yeah, so that was Flux Capacitation was the name of that movie.
Yeah.
And it was you had to get into a trash can, and that was a time machine, and then you had to be hit by a car so that it could get up to speed.
Jason's Jeep and hit his trash can.
You did, yeah. And we did not have permits for that.
No.
We just did it out in the street.
We showed Alicia pooping on the toilet.
pooping on the toilet, and she had to pull her underwear down for realism. I remember. And then
I've got the nerve turds.
See, it was a good script.
It was.
It was just the effects were really bad.
Like probably my acting was a lot of it.
No, your acting was
down.
Your acting was good, man. But the whole point of that movie was that you hit the trash can with the car, and then it shoots you into a time hole that just shoots you out in a random place naked.
Right. Yeah, we all just came out in random places and naked.
Yeah. So like, you came out in another man's shower naked.
Yeah.
And you dropped the soap. Which was, I think, your idea.
It was.
To drop the soap. I got into a manty, which is a man panty.
Right.
For those who are uninitiated, that just barely didn't show my penis. But my balls and my pubic hair were clearly visible.
We saw a lot of Jason that day.
My whole ass was visible.
Yes.
And I had to climb up on a ladder and then jump onto the kitchen table that my parents and my future wife were sitting at. And I landed full bore naked onto a table with a Jell-O mold and cereal and a pizza set out because that's what people eat.
So you've uploaded this to your new YouTube channel, right? Because if we're going to sell this, that needs to be uploaded.
Since we've talked so much about it, I will upload it. But it is disturbing. And that was your first and only movie making experience with me.
Not for lack of trying.
We have tried to get you back. Yeah. It wasn't because you didn't want to do it again. But you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going on, so I understand. Maybe we'll be able to get you in this next one.
Yes.
All right. So on that note, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. On YouTube, I just put up the music video for "Dill Don't Leave Me,"
and we'll put up Flux Capacitation.
We'll put up Flux Capacitation. I'm also gonna have the trailer to Wholesome on there because we talked about that last week about my failed attempt at making a movie. But yeah, check out Alicia's song "Dill Don't Leave Me." Make sure you guys check out the Movie Guys podcast because they're hilarious. Those guys are friends with another podcast called Hey Down in Front, which is like kind of like what we do, where they're like a commentary on a specific movie every week. You know what? I just found out about this hidden piece of gold that I didn't know about. It's a show on Netflix called Norseman.
Yeah.
It's if you like watching Vikings, this is the complete opposite
of Vikings. If you laugh when you watch Monty Python, come watch these guys.
Yeah.
Like that's obviously a huge influence for them, and it's that really quirky kind of comedy that I love. Like for example, they had a slave that was about to be sacrificed, and he's like arguing about how to best do it, like how to get the best results with the person who's going to execute him, and they're kind of like bantering back and forth. It's the very first episode. It's hilarious. Like just watch it. It's worth your time.
It's genius. The first episode will have you hooked. And I don't normally plug stuff, but that one like popped up on my radar and it was so good. I wanted to plug that. And we're going to end today with, let's see. Brian, what plugs do you have?
Just come follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Brian Gunn Books, BryanGunn, Brian Gunn Books. Come check me out. Send me a message. Get to know me better. I like talking with people. So,
especially dudes
ask me questions. Yeah, where do you live?
with big schlongs.
You down to party? What's up? You down to party?
We're going to leave you guys today on more of a serious note, but with Alicia's new song that I swear, like, if there's anybody out there listening that knows somebody, this girl needs to be signed because her talent is insane. She's so good, and she does this, like, on a guitar that she found in the garbage, on a microphone she bought at her work in her living room, and it sounds amazing. So I can't even imagine what, like, actually, like, produced material from this girl would sound like. So we're going to leave you guys with that. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Talking Poop. Please join us next week for another Halloween edition.
Don't do that.
It was scary though, right?
No.
You weren't scared?
No.
All right. And on that note, I love you guys. I love you in a way that a podcaster shouldn't love his audience. I'll see you guys next time. Later.
It was a sour night. The moon would rise for me. The wind became a guide. Her whispers turned into a scream. Followed in the dark alone. I heard the devil sing a prayer for me. My heart had turned to stone. And I die when you're calling me home. You're calling me home. Are you calling me home? You're calling me home. Simplicity's a fine disguise, like a tick on a clock, too late to realize when it's time to stop. Secrets running cold like a stream, flowing fast and roaring, but my heart had turned to stone. And I die when you're calling me home. You're calling me home. Are you calling me home? You're calling me home.
Even Game of Thrones, that's one that people are, oh, you try it, you're gonna love it. First off, no, you won't. Game of Thrones is like, it's like being stabbed in the dick with a Q-tip over and over again. Like, you're like, this is the last episode. I see your face.
Yeah.
Let me explain better. Forget about that whole like reference I just made.
Okay.
I don't even know what that's like, being stabbed in the dick with a Q-tip over
I guess
and
we'll
over.
have to try it after this.
Because like it sounds horrible, but then it's also kind of soft. Like, I don't know. For those of you that don't know why I just screamed, it's because Brian literally just poked me in the dick.
I mean,
Not the first time, just the first time today.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not sure that it is the first time today. Now that I think about it,
Actually,
yeah.
I'm
So
gonna counterpoint. I'm gonna say I love Game of Thrones, and it's worth the effort getting to, even though a lot of the stuff in the beginning doesn't seem to matter. Like,
it's erroneous. And every episode that I watched of Game of Thrones, I was like, this is going to be the last episode I watch. And then something happens in the last 3 fucking minutes, and I'm like, God damn it, I have to watch the next one.
that's George R. Martin. We call him Gurm. That's Gurm's style.
Yeah.
He hangs off every when you read his books, every fucking chapter ends like that.
And
It's
then-
a cheap way to do things,
and
but
then-
it keeps me reading.
It does, and it kept me watching. And then, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this season, and then I'm not watching it anymore. And then the fucking Red Wedding happens,
Yeah.
and you're like, God damn it,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the next season, you know? And that's how it keeps you going.
Yep.
But I've never been so like half in, half out on a show ever in my life. And I'm a fan now. Like now they've got me in. But I did say last season, I was like, if this weren't going to be the last season coming up, I believe it's season 8, that would have been the end of it for me. I would miss the next couple seasons. And then when they got to the last season, I'd hop back on and be like, where you guys been?
See, that was my plan, because I started reading the books, so my plan was like, hey, I'll read the books, but I'm not going to watch the show. Well, then the show surpassed the books because
Right.
Gurm's a lazy fuck. And
I can't even imagine how frustrating it is.
he's
it's
coming
frustrating
out with
that
a
the show
new book about the universe that's not the next book in the series, dude. He's done that twice now.
Really?
I've been waiting 7 fucking years for this book. God damn, fuck that guy. All right, sorry, that's a trigger for me.
So I was wondering what it's like to be one of the fans of the book and the show, and now I know it's just as fucking frustrating
it's
as I
frustrating
expected
as
it to be.
Fuck, like when I first started the series, the first 4 books were already out, so I was spoiled. It was Game of Thrones, which is the title of the first book, through Feast for Crows, which is book 4. Had to wait a little bit for book 5, and then I've been waiting ever since for book 6. I believe book 5 came out 2011. And I've been fucking waiting ever since for the next book. And I follow his blog, and he says, like, oh, I don't write when I'm traveling. He travels all the time. He doesn't have a laptop.
Right.
And then when he's home, I don't know.
He's constantly tickling your balls with like, oh yeah, I'm working on the book right now.
Yeah.
And then like
It just
years go
doesn't-
by and
yeah.
he doesn't do anything. So
as far as now that I have a daily writing discipline, I know that if he had just been doing like half as much as I do on a daily basis, he would have finished this book years ago.
But who's the talented one now? Because yes, he came up with all this shit, but HBO is just like fucking
Yeah.
writing his shit.
Yeah,
And
I
they're
think
off
he's-
the rails
I
now.
think he's completely unmotivated to finish it. They're gonna finish the story before him, so I think he's lost the little tiny bit of motivation he did have to finish it.
Hopefully they finish it and then like he hates the way they finished it, and so like his book, he gets motivated to finish his book and just like change everything that HBO did.
Yeah, like here's the thing: is he's not like a great outliner, which is why his books take so long. Is because he fucked up the whole story and he had to like change things. So he doesn't know. Like he didn't really know how he was. He might have known the ending, but he didn't know like everything that was going to happen in between. HBO is coming up with so much of this stuff on their own. He
Yeah.
can't possibly like put all this stuff in his books.
Right.
It's whatever. We're here to talk about Army of Darkness, and fucking 35 minutes has gone by. And we haven't even talked about it.
We haven't even talked about Army of Darkness.
And you're
I'm
getting me all
still
fired up over here about the books and Gurm.
I am still actually on my